Supposed to be starting when the season began. The Vikings seem to have finally found faith in Case Keenum, and the Eagles will ride Nick Foles now that they've lost Carson Wentz for the rest of the year. Foles and Keenum don't exactly roll off the tongue, but they might should they take their respective teams all the way. CC, let's make this a trust thing. Who do you trust more going into a game, Keenum or Foles?
The only reason why you might trust one over the other, from my perspective, would be the time that they entered the lineup. Case Keenum, he's very, very fortunate. He took over the Vikings early in the season, so we've seen him a lot more, so our confidence has grown seeing him function with this football team. Also, their defense and special teams have been amazing. Carson Wentz just got hurt 2 weeks ago. I mean, he was the leading candidate to be the MVP. So one is replacing the guy that was going to win the MVP. So it's really hard to trust that he can play to the level that Carson Wentz was playing at, because that's what we just saw. So I would have to say Case, because I've seen more of him, and my expectations are probably more realistic. And the Vikings, I believe, have a better defense or a better supporting cast for the quarterback. So Case Keenum, for me, coming down the stretch, I believe to have more confidence in or would trust more than Nick Foles. I believe Nick Foles has more talent, more throwing talent. Now, he's not as mobile as Case, but as an overall arm, if we were having a throwing contest, I would take Nick Foles. And I really do trust Frank Wright, the offensive coordinator there in Philadelphia, and the offense that he's gotten them into at the end of the game 2 weeks ago, and last week's game plan that they had against the Giants.
The answer for me is Case Keenum, not just because he's had more time, but because Case has played the last 6 weeks at a level that is shocking to me. Last 6 weeks, Case Keenum's the NFL's highest-rated passer. Like that. How can that be true? It is true. Like, I don't know. I don't quite understand it, but I know that it's true. So I've seen more from Case, as Chris mentioned, and I've seen Case at a very high level for now 6 weeks. I mean, that's a big enough portion of a season that a 6-week suspension for Zeke derailed the Cowboys season. That's almost 40% of the year Case has been excellent. Nick Foles is just perplexing to me, because you can easily make a strong or anti-Nick Foles case, because we haven't seen him this year. The strong case would be, look at Foles' whole career, except for when Jeff Fisher had him. And look at what Jeff Fisher did with Case. Look at what Jeff Fisher did with Jared Goff. Everywhere Foles had been when he's had the opportunity, except with Jeff Fisher, has been awesome. That's the case for him. The case against Nick Foles would be, man, remove that outlier year in Philly, that 27 touchdown, 2 interception year, and he's been what you would think he is, a replacement-level backup quarterback. So we're going to find out how good Nick Foles is in these coming weeks in the most pressurized situations in football once we get to the playoffs. But here's what I want to ask you, Chris. And this is what's so interesting about the NFC playoffs this year. Top 5 seeds: Philly, Minnesota, the Rams, the Saints, the Panthers. Going into the playoffs, aside from Drew Brees, is there any quarterback that you're fully confident in?
Well, it's about the team. I mean, football is the ultimate team game. And we talk about the quarterbacks, but there's not a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFC, so no need to talk about them. So now it's a matter of which team do you have the most confidence in? And I have more confidence in the Vikings defense, in the Eagles defense to get to Drew Brees, than I have Drew Brees and taking those defenses apart.
Sure, but the point that I'm making is, even though football's the ultimate team game, understood, that even, I don't have to go back far in NFL history, in recent NFL history, when we look at the playoffs, you're like, okay, you got Rodgers, you got Russell Wilson, Big Ben, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. You're going down the list of guys like, okay, this team's biggest strength, the reason they are where they are is because of quarterback play. You look at the top 5 seeds in the NFC right now, I don't know that you'd say that about any of them, including the team with Drew Brees.
Right. Well, the reason is because quarterback injuries, and also there's a changing of the guards in the National Football League. A lot of these older quarterbacks are going out. Phillip Rivers, Ben, Eli, they came in a long time ago. These younger quarterbacks, we don't have a bunch of confidence, and the injuries. So it just happens to be a hodgepodge this year. You know, Ben in the AFC, Brady in the AFC, and Drew Brees in the NFC. And that's it.
Right.
I'm going to put one vote in for Case Keenum, back to our original question, for your reason and for your reason. Mine would be this guy had to play every week knowing that his team, we're talking about having trust in a guy, barely had trust in him, which was every week you're going to play for your right to play another week. That is a lot to place on a guy, even a journeyman who's been in the league for a long time, but who's carrying a very good Vikings team right now, a team with very high hopes and a lot of promise that's supposed to go pretty deep into the playoffs. Hey, you're the backup. We got a guy who we love who's right behind you. Don't screw it up. If you can do that, you can play another week. The fact that he's managed to play 6 weeks and string together 6 great weeks of football, and some haven't been great games, but he's managed to keep that team in it, I say stands a lot, goes very far towards.
I mean, aside from the game against Carolina, he hasn't had a bad game. Since Teddy's come back, he's played the best football of his career. Like as you mentioned, when he finally had a chance to lose the job that he got because of an injury, that he could lose because of plays, when he played the best football of his career, he deserves all the credit in the world.
And one of the best things could have happened last week in a blowout. Teddy was able to be put into the game. They gave him an ovation. Also, Teddy threw an interception, so I think that Case's leash just got extended just by that.
Jen asked this before the show. I think I know your answer, but I just, for the audience. Teddy went in there. Why did the Vikings put Teddy in there?
Because the game was out of control. They were playing at home. They knew the type of reception. It was getting the reps.
Right.
Like, I mean, if he gets dinged, like, why would you take those reps away, which you could have given to Teddy? Like, it doesn't make sense. Those are real live game reps, and if they never need Teddy, those reps will help shake off the rust and the nerves.
Right.
You know, and if you want to put him in the game, you want to put him in at home because the people love him there.
Right, and they did, and his reception was incredible. All right, coming up, should the New England Patriots be worried about the way they beat the Steelers?